One of the things we did is we started selling, not just wholesaling these properties, or not just taking a $50,000 property for $10,000 and selling it for 30 and making 20 grand, but we started also selling these properties with seller financing. I can say, you know what, you don't have to pay me 50 grand. You can just pay me $10,000 or $12,000 down, and then the remaining $38,000 you pay in monthly payments over the next 15 years. So we started doing that, and it's actually way more profitable to do deals like that. We typically charge about between 12 and 15% interest, which in the land space is very normal. Because if you go to a bank today and you want a loan on a piece of land, first of all, they're going to ask you for about 50% down payment. And then on the other 50%, they're going to charge you about 10, 11%. When we sell a piece of land with seller financing, we're only asking for a 20% down payment and we're financing 80%. And because of that, the more you finance, the higher interest rate you can actually charge. So we're charging 12 to 15%. And that obviously accumulates very quickly.
What's up, Jack? Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, it was fun being on your show just recently, and it was good getting a chance to get to know you. I've heard great things from afar, and I have to say, our conversation left me very intellectually stimulated because we got into really cool conversations about legacy and kids and having kids work in your business and in the family office and learn how to invest. So we have to dive into that today for sure.
Sure. We'd love to. Yes, we'd love to.
Before we do, I think it would be really good to kind of dig in. I've had, I think, only one other person before on the podcast on land as an investment. And, I've done plenty of land deals myself. And often I feel like they're not set up for success, but I know you can set them up for success. And you have to have the right deal, the right strategy. You've got to be careful you're not sitting and holding where you can't earn income, but it costs you a lot and money dries up, right? So I'm curious why you feel land flipping maybe beats traditional real estate. I've had a lot of people on the show that have done cash flow investments on, self-storage, multifamily, mobile home parks, industrial. Those are probably the four major ones. So I'd love to get your take on it.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to say that it beats any other real estate investment strategy per se, because you can make a ton of money with any kind of real estate investment strategy. So I'm not going to be here bashing other real estate investment strategies and so on and so forth. I just found it to be the easiest and simplest entry strategy to get into real estate, because I like to half jokingly say there's no tennis, toilets, and termites involved. So in other words, when my wife and I discovered land, we're both immigrants from Germany and Honduras. I'm from Germany, obviously, and my wife is from Honduras. And we met here, fell in love with each other, fell in love with the country, decided to stay here, got jobs, got disillusioned by the jobs very quickly, and then started realizing we needed to do something. We wanted to go into real estate. We simply failed at all other real estate strategies, at least at the beginning. Now I have done all kinds of other stuff, but we didn't know how to estimate values of, how to estimate repairs. We didn't know how to do all those kind of things. And when we stumbled into land, what we figured out is the most important things, like, yes, you can do land completely wrong and get stuck with it and end up pouring money into it. But what we discovered really is you can make a lot of money with land in a very simple format if you do basically land wholesaling or land seller financing. So in other words, we really specialized in finding pieces of land that owners have had for sometimes 20, 30 years, or they have inherited. They really don't want it anymore. They're sick and tired of paying these property taxes, of just paying HOA fees, paying maintenance for the properties. That's all the stuff that if you buy and hold land and you just don't do anything with it, and let's say you bought it on the west side of town, but the city's growing to the east side of town, the value hasn't gone up. Nothing has happened. There's no benefit in owning the land unless you like to go out there, spend your weekends on there. But other than that, there's no benefit. These people are very frustrated often with their pieces of land. And because they're owned free and clear, banks don't like to lend on land. They have held on these properties for a long time. They simply are like, to them, it's like a sunk cost. They're like, you know what? I don't care about it. I don't want it. And they give you these pieces of land sometimes for 20, 30 cents on a dollar.
Yeah.
So the very first deal I got was an infill lot in a rural community. I was worth not a high value piece of land. It was worth $10,000, and I paid $400 for it. And I got it, and I literally sold it to the next door neighbor that same day for $4,000. I
Wow.
didn't have to estimate repairs. I didn't have to go look at it. In this case, I did drive there because it was many, many years ago. Google Street View and Google Maps didn't even exist back at the times. But I simply was able to just go there, and the neighbor walks across from the street, walks across the street and says like, "What are you doing?" Is like, "I'm looking to sell the property." He's like, "I want to buy it," and buys it right there from me. Now we typically sell about 30 to 40% of our properties to the neighbors, so the people in the neighborhood. But the key here is that with land flipping, why it is something that is such a great strategy is that if you focus on finding the people that don't want them anymore, they give you bigger discounts than in the housing area. There's nothing to estimate, nothing to repair, and all you do is you mark it up a little bit to a still bargain value so that even that lot on the west side of town where nothing is going on, somebody still wants that land because nothing is going on. Not everyone wants to build in the path of growth and then 5 years from now or 10 years from now has 2,700 neighbors around them. Some people want 5 acres, half an hour outside of town, with the hopes that nobody moves there and that they can actually have space and have peace and quiet. Now, these lots are still worth 50 grand. You can get them sometimes for 10 or 15 grand, turn around, sell them for 35 grand, make a $20,000 profit. And you do that very quickly without having any kind of estimating repairs and any kind of boots on the ground and those kind of things. And so often actually without even using your own money. So as an asset class, land wholesaling can be even simpler than house wholesaling, 10 times simpler than house fix and flipping, and 1,000,000 times simpler than multifamily or other asset classes like that. Which, by the way, I'm all involved in most of those right now. I own 700 apartment units. I have rental houses and those kind of things. But what I've done, talking about with your subject of the lifestyle investor, what we have done, we have made land flipping our cash machine, then taken the profits, invested that into buy and hold cash flow real estate, and now all our bills are being paid from that real estate.
Yeah, I love that. And part of why I wanted to have you on the show, I mean, number one is I really enjoyed our time and just really think the world of you and your values, just the way you look at the world, the way you want to help people. And then number two, I feel like this is very lifestyle investor-esque. It's very lifestyle friendly. You flipped over 4,000 properties, but what I also love is that you've helped over 1,000 people become millionaires through your programs and products. And I'd love to hear even a story of one of your students that has had success. Maybe it's one of these, someone who just got started, now they're a millionaire. But what did that look like along the way? What were some of their stories of land acquisition?
Yeah, just to make sure this is proper, our goal is to get 1,000 people to a millionaire status. We don't entirely know if we are there yet. I think we're very close, but because sometimes what people do is they learn from us and then they go off, and 3 years later, or a year later, or 2 years, or 5 years later, they're millionaires, but they never report it back to us.
Sure.
So we kind of have a little bit of a hard time exactly measuring how many people, but I know it's hundreds that we have turned into millionaires, and hopefully, I think we're, based on our calculations, we could be close to the 1,000 already. So
that's awesome.
So to your question, what happens is, you're right. It is a very millionaire lifestyle investor-esque kind of business, because again, the fact that you don't have to go look at the properties means that you can do deals anywhere in the country. Like, for example, there's this concept called virtual house wholesaling. There's a few people that teach this out there. So like virtual house wholesaling, you can find houses anywhere in the country and then you just make them an offer and then you wholesale it to somebody else. But the reality is that if you want to do this right, you still have boots on the ground.
Right.
And somebody's got to go look in that house and see how outdated everything is, what condition the roof is and what condition the foundation is. And we tried that too after having done a lot of land deals. And what happened in 8 out of 10 times is that the people that were the boots on the ground ended up stealing the deals from us.
Oh, my goodness.
So we're like, okay, let's go back to just land, because in land that doesn't happen. So in other words, because in land, you're dealing with a seller directly. The seller might be in New York City. The land might be in Texas. I'm in Arizona. And the buyer might be in Florida wanting to move to Texas. So it is 100% location independent. Nobody goes even look at the property. Everyone just works off aerial pictures. And as a result, you can be anywhere you want to be. And we have worked out some virtualization methods that if you have like a virtual mailbox and a virtual phone number through services like Ring Central and Open Phone and things like that, you can be anywhere in the world. As a matter of fact, we have one of our coaches in our company is a guy in Germany. He sits in Hamburg, Germany, does about 40 to 50 deals a year. Average profit about $20,000, so it's about an $800,000 to $1 million a year business, sitting
That's
in Hamburg,
great.
Germany,
Yeah.
but does the deals in the U.S. And for example, during COVID, when the borders were closed, he couldn't even enter into the United States, but he continues to do deals in the U.S. So from an example point of view, it's very lifestyle-ish because it allows you to automate a lot of things. It allows you to use mailing houses and call centers and things so that you really only deal with the people that want to sell you the property and the people who want to buy the property from you. And even that one can be outsourced to a realtor. And so you can enjoy your life. So for example, one of our coaches, Aaron, is, by the way, all our coaches are former students.
Okay.
So all our
That's
coaches
good.
in our company, they started as students. And Aaron, for example, is a product of foster care. So he came through the foster care system. Obviously, that's a tough upbringing. He went to the military afterwards. Then he got paid his college. He started becoming an engineer, but he abandoned. I think he finished, or he might have not. I don't know. And then he started doing some Amazon and other things. Now, Aaron is a outsourcing and automation expert. He now does about 30 to 50 deals a year. Again, profits about $20,000, $25,000 a pop, and he does it in 5 to 8 hours a week. Now that's a lifestyle business.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So
people watching this and listening to this, I think that resonates, that you could, in a much less period of time for what you're spending and whatever your career is or your business is, whatever company you may work for, in a fraction of that, or let's just call it half that time, make 2, 3, 4, 5 times as much.
Yeah. Now, given, of course, on day one, he didn't make that, right? I'm not going to be here telling you like, yeah, this is get rich quick or anything like that. No, there's work involved, of course. But what Aaron did and what all our students now doing, and one of his, like an attorney that was really sick and tired of being an attorney. In his first year, he made $370,000, and then he quit as an attorney. They moved to Mexico, bought a beach house in Mexico, and they continue doing deals from Mexico in the U.S. now. I mean, that's a beautiful lifestyle business there. But the point is, what Aaron did is, over time, little by little, he just implemented more and more and more outsourcing pieces, to the point that now he just basically works Fridays on his business and perhaps a couple of hours on Tuesdays or so.
Well, that's nice. Something else, Jack, that I love about your program is your concept of forever cash. So you have this philosophy, but I'd love for you to explain exactly what the forever cash model is, and really how it can help people escape their earn and spend life cycle. I earn this much, I spend this much, I'm keeping up with the Joneses, or I'm just getting by. I don't have, a whole lot of extra capital. How do we solve for that?
We talked a little bit about that, about your philosophy, and in my podcast, the Jack Bosch show, which I don't know when each of them are being released, but the way we discovered this concept of the forever cash principles of philosophy is that we made mistakes like everyone else. We did not. My dad is a high school teacher. My mom's a stay-at-home mom. My wife's dad died when she was 9 months old. Her mom never remarried, and her mom is an elementary school teacher. So we did not grow with any kind of wealth philosophy other than get a good education, get a good job, like the traditional kind of one. So what we did when we started making money, we intuitively were kind of almost like afraid. We were like, what if this stops? What if this just was a fluke? What if, like, there's no more pieces of land that anyone wants to sell to us? What if we can't then make any more money? So kind of intuitively what we did is, as we started making really good money with this, and we became millionaires in 18 months using this strategy, is we just put money off to the sideline and didn't spend it. We continued living in our little starter home that we bought for $151,000 in 2001 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. We contribute driving our old cars and so on. But then one of the things we did is we started selling, not just wholesaling these properties, or not just taking a $50,000 property for $10,000 and selling it for 30 and making 20 grand, but we started also selling these properties with seller financing.
Okay.
And when we started selling financings, let's say you have a $50,000 property, you have it under contract, let's say for $10,000, you have two choices. You can sell it for $35 and make $25,000. And I'm ignoring closing costs here just for the simplicity of the calculations. Or I can say I put it out on the market for full market value, which usually means it takes a long time to sell.
Okay.
But I can say, you know what, on the market, you don't have to pay me 50 grand. You can just pay me $10,000 or $12,000 down. And then the remaining $38,000 you pay in monthly payments over the next 15 years. So we started doing that, and it's actually way more profitable to do deals like that.
Yeah,
and
you're the bank.
You can actually turn land into cash flow, because if you look at it, if you have it under contract for 10 and you're getting a $12,000 down payment, that's enough to pay the title company, pay the seller, put $1,000 in your pocket, and now you bought the property, sold the property, you have $1,000 in your pocket, but they still owe you $38,000, and you create cash flow. So we did some deals with 15 years cash flow, some deals with 5-year cash flow, some deals with 3 years cash flow, some deals with 7-year cash flow. And as we kept doing these deals, about 5-7 years later, we started realizing this is amazing, but all of these notes are starting to stop. They're winding down. So we actually have to start recreating all this cash flow. So that's when we had an epiphany, and we're like, oh, there's a difference between how you apply your cash and what it produces. And we classified it into 3 things: one-time cash, temporary cash, and forever cash. So the quick definition of that is, one-time cash is very simply, you do something and you get once and you get paid once. Like, it's like your neighbor asks, like, you're a teenager and your neighbor says, can you mow my lawn? You mow your lawn, you get $20 or $50, and that's it. Right? You're done. You have the money. There's no repeat in here. You've did the work. A job is a one-time cash thing too, because even though people say, well, I get paid twice a month, well, try to not show up at work and see how quickly you're not going to get paid anymore. You really get paid for the work that you delivered. So it's one-time cash. Now, what we realized is a wholesale deal, getting that $50,000 property for 10, selling it for 35, is also one-time cash. If you stop flipping, the income stops.
Right.
However, it's a higher quality one-time cash, because what is it better? Spend 10 hours mowing a lawn and make $200, or is it better 10 hours working on a deal and make $25,000? Totally. Obviously, it's a higher quality one-time cash, but it still is one-time cash, meaning if you ever stop, income stops. So we're like, okay, we need to do more of these seller financing deals. So the second thing is then temporary cash. Temporary cash, the best example is a seller financing kind of deal. Because in this seller financing situation, it's like you do the work once, you find the property, you market the property, you sell the property, you sign the agreement. All of that is done once, but now the money comes in month after month after month after month, but not forever. Only for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, or 15 years, whatever you arrange in the note. Now that's better, because what we did in the first 6 months of doing this business, we built up $5,000 in passive cash flow, which at the time was more money than we made in our job. So we were financially free temporarily for the next 3 to 7 years. But what it did, it allowed us to quit our job. By that time, the green card had arrived. We were in the process. We took me 5.5 years to work with an H-1B visa until I got the green card and so on. So once I had the green card, I was able to quit my job. And then we just poured all that energy into this, the time that we before had spent on the job, now into this business, and we skyrocket like that. But the $5,000 a month were a crucial part to my financial freedom. But we realized it's only going to be for like 7 years until all these loans are paid off, and then you have to restart it. So that's temporary cash, and temporary cash is better than forever than one-time cash, because it provides you temporary stability and the ability to sit back, see what am I going to do with my life, where am I going to do this, and the cash flow comes in without you having to do anything in addition. So this is just money coming into the mailbox.
And
initially
you get a
checked.
little bit of interest that's helping out. So let's say instead of taking 25,000 one time, you're
Yeah,
probably making closer to 50,000 over that 7 year, whatever the term
yeah.
is.
We
So you're
typically
getting
start.
the you're getting the asset value and then the lending interest value.
Exactly. And we typically charge about between 12 and 15% interest, which in
Okay.
the land space is very normal. Because if you go to a bank today and you want want a loan on a piece of land, first of all, they're going to ask you for about 50% down payment. And then on the other 50%, they're going to charge you about 10, 11%. When we sell a piece of land with seller financing, we're only asking for a 20% down payment and we're financing 80%. And because of that, we can actually raise the more you finance, the higher the interest rate you can actually charge. So we're charging 12 to 15%. And that obviously accumulates very quickly.
Yeah, and
But
obviously if
then we
someone defaults at any point, that land is still yours. You haven't, deeded that over to them, so you take it back and you restart the process again with a new buyer.
Exactly right. So you get it all back and then you get another down payment and the cash flow starts again. So financially speaking, really the default is like the best that could happen to you. Philosophically speaking, core value speaking, I don't want people to default. I'm
Right.
working with them for 3, 4, 5, 6 months. As long as they're willing to work with us, we have restructured notes, lowered people's payments because I want them to have the ownership of the property. I want them, just like for me, it was fulfillment of the American dream of owning a piece of real estate in the U.S. Coming here as an immigrant. I want our customers to also have that American dream and the ability to say, I own a piece of America here. But financially speaking, it's the best going to happen. So what we realized at that point, and that's about 6 years in, now we have done lots of flips. We created cash flow, have money in the bank. We realized that a lot of these notes are starting to dwindle down and that we have to go rebuild it again. That's what we realized. What we really need in our life is what we call forever cash. And forever cash is something where you do the work once and you get paid really forever. I mean, I'm not a musician. If I would be Michael Jackson, Michael Jackson has been dead for I don't know how many years, but his estate makes something like $50 million a year. Elvis Presley's estate makes something like $60 to $100 million a year. That is the ultimate passive income that goes for even past your death. Now, I'm not a musician. I'm not an artist. I'm not Michael Jordan and has a shoe deal with Nike, right? So the simplest thing we could do is just simply think about, well, we're already in real estate. We already like real estate. By this point, we are experts in real estate because we've done so many deals. We know about title work and title issues and thing. The simple next step is instead of just like doing more deals, let's take some money off the table, utilize our land business as a cash machine and take every surplus dollar and move that over into forever cash real estate, meaning cash flow, improved property real estate. First, we started with rental houses. Then we moved to apartment complexes. Now we're also industrial and commercial property. And we have a portfolio that continues to grow and that spits out that we own. Some of that we own with investors because it was too big for us to take down. So we syndicated some deals. But other properties like a 90-unit apartment complex in North Carolina, we own simply, my wife and I now own that thing. And that's just, it's a cash machine. It just like spits out cash, and other properties in different parts of the country do the same thing. And so now we basically look at it. Now we understood it. You focus on creating cash. Like your first thing is focus on expanding your ability to generate cash, one-time cash. There's nothing wrong with it. But it's only a means to an end.
Right.
The goal of one-time cash is not for you to go buy a bigger house and spend it. The goal is to make as much as possible, put it off to the sideline for a short period of time, and then invest it into something that provides more cash flow so that you, over time, you get one cash flow resource, another cash flow source, another cash flow source. And it's like money pouring in from everywhere for literally ever. And at some point of time, that passive cash flow from these forever cash sources exceeds your wildest dreams. And at that point of time, you do whatever you want to do in life. And if you want to go rescue baby seals in the North Poles or something, then you do that because your lifestyle is being paid by the assets that you were able to purchase.
Oh, I love that. It's beautiful and it's systematic, and you have a framework built around it, which I think is great. I talk a lot about this in the Lifestyle Investor about get to your survival income number and focus on whatever it costs you to live and just get by, and then get to your lifestyle number, and then everything above and beyond that is surplus income. And as you get surplus income, there's one of two options here. You can either upgrade your lifestyle, or you can upgrade your ability to earn the forever cash, like you're talking about, and grow your wealth and use some of those dollars for impact, which we talked about on your show. And so I love that methodology, and something that I really admire about you. It's something that was important to me, was instead of splurging on lifestyle when we had all this surplus income above what it cost us to live, we focused on diversifying, investing more, putting 100% of that towards impact and wealth creation, creating more diversified income streams. And you did something very similar, but we just had, kind of a really cool experience this last month where we had, I've got, I don't know, somewhere in the range of about 100 plus different income streams. Okay. And it's built up over time. It didn't happen overnight. But we had 15 or 16. It was either, I can't remember. Let's just call it 16 different income streams that A, kicked out regular recurring money, or B, had a return of capital, or C, had a deal go full cycle, and we got the full return. Maybe we had gotten part of it before, and then this was the end of it. But on those 16 deals, we made more in the last month than I ever made in any business that I had built for the year prior to starting Lifestyle Investor. And so I had started several other companies, bought other companies, I'd done a bunch of real estate, and it was literally the most I had ever made. And it happened just from passive distributions.
This is something that I'm learning right now, as our means have gotten to the point where where my wife and I consciously started to make the next transition in a way. It's not transition because I'm not leaving the other area. We continue to have a land flipping business. We have continued to have a land coaching business. We continue to have a real estate asset and a investment business. But now we also have been recently adding the aspect of being just a passive business investor. So we recently had the opportunity to invest in SpaceX by Elon Musk, which is a private company. It's not public. But one of their executives were selling some companies, some shares, and through a friend of mine, we were able to get in there. I was currently considering an investment in the consumer kind of food kind of item company and things. And I mean, probably not all of them will turn out great. I'm sure SpaceX will, but I'm an investor in a bank that I help create, and I'm on board of their advisors and things like that. And I can already see that some of those things are going to be turn out exponentially so well that they will make a massive impact in our income, in our net worth. But again, you couldn't do that without first having focused on building up your cash machine, as I call it, and then having that turn into that income streams. Because now if I invest whatever dollar amount into a company and that goes down the drain, guess what? In the next month or 3 months or 6 months, that money is being replaced from these assets that I do have from these cash flowing assets. You're going to replace, and yes, I lost some money, but it's almost like it feels like it's monopoly money, because it's just like keeps coming in. Like whatever you do with it, you burn it. Of course, we don't. We're very respectful of it, but you could technically put a bonfire and burn it, and next month more comes. And of course, we would never do that.
And I love that point. I want to double down on that, because that's a philosophy I also have. We have very similar philosophies, which I love. And also, by the way, I'm a fellow SpaceX investor, huge fan. I've invested in all of Elon Musk's companies because I just think he's going to continue to do great things, and he's one of the smartest people on the planet. And I would like to ride his coattails.
Right. I always say never bet against Elon.
That's right. That's right. But you made a comment here that was really significant, and I just want to make sure our audience didn't miss it. You talked about how you used your surplus income to do different investments that would exponentially or could exponentially grow your wealth. What I have identified and noticed is that a lot of people starting out in investing who don't know better start with really risky things, early stage companies, seed, angel type of investments in seed and pre-seed rounds, or just other things that are super speculative. And so if you lose that money, it's gone. Now you're like, it takes so much time to work that just to get that money back, right?
Yeah.
But your comment is what I love talking about, which is, I worked hard saving, 15, 20, 25% of what I was making every year. And at peak years, I was saving 50% of what I was making because my goal was not to have our lifestyle increase. It was to have more investable capital. And so that surplus money went to create, at first the extra money I had went to create passive income. Once I had all the passive income, now I have surplus money. I didn't waste the money that got me to financial freedom on risky deals. I waited until I had surplus income that I know is going to come again next month and next month and next month to make risky investments for that portion of my portfolio. And if you follow what the billionaires do, I study all the single family office data. It's about 1% of their net worth or less in early, angel deals. It's about 4 to 10% in venture, which is, a collection of deals. You're in a fund, but it's still early stage, just not that early, not as early as seed and pre-seed. And so it's like using that extra money to try to get those exponential returns when it's recurring. This is recurring surplus passive income. And I just wanted to kind of, double click that again, because I think it's such an important point. Like, create the passive income first. I had financial freedom before I was
with conservative, proven
conservative
investments that actually that you have an extremely high likelihood of actually making it into a cash flow investment. You don't want to take your seed money and go to the casino with it. You want to make sure you have your seed money produce reliable income. And then once you're in the surplus area, you take that and you go to any casino you want to with that.
That's right. And I think you're probably similar to me. Correct me if I'm wrong, but for me, I had financial freedom before I was ever a millionaire. So my net worth was not even at $1 million when I had more money coming in than what it cost me to live.
Yes.
So
correct.
So you're the same. And
same
so,
here.
But the more cash flow you get, the natural byproduct is more net worth, right? So it's like you can focus on this. You got real utility over here on the cash flow side. So I don't want to swing for the fences. I want singles and doubles. I want to buy my time back. Once I own my time, then maybe I could go for a triple or a home run periodically, not all the time, right? And the goal is to just keep growing that. And as you grow it, diversify it. And the more wealth you have, the more impact minded I hope people can become. I think that we can have impact at any level, anytime. And I think it's great to be generous no matter what we're making, that some dollars go to something that does good in the world. But the more money you make, I think there's a responsibility to double, triple, quadruple those efforts. And I know you agree with me on that.
Absolutely. I mean, everything you just said, I'm just nodding. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. The thing is, we on the impact side, I came to the conclusion that I'm never going to be running a orphanage or something like that. I'm never going to be the person that runs a big foundation or so. It's just not me, but I care deeply about these things. What I'm really good at is creating businesses and running businesses and things like that. So, and have those businesses produce income. So I just chose that I'm going to be the financier in a way behind those things. So we're just heavily donating to causes that are important to us, where other people, they're called to the service of actually fulfilling those purposes. They're the ones that they're not good in making money, but they need money to help people. So we're funding them and they're doing the work. And I think it's a great symbiotic relationship between the two of us.
That's awesome. And what I will say, we've got a lot of people that listen here and that watch the show that are eager to take the next step. And in fact, when we wrap things up, I'm going to ask a question that I ask every week that kind of helps move people in that direction. But For someone listening or watching today, Jack, what's one step they could take to like start moving or living this forever cash philosophy?
Great question. So, a few things go through my mind there. The first thing is, to start it, like look through your expenses and start eliminating a whole bunch of expenses like that you can. Like, do you really need subscriptions to everything? Now, I'm not a fan of like if you want your daily Starbucks, go get your daily Starbucks. I'm not a big fan of like eating just rice and beans. Nothing wrong with that. My wife is from Honduras. That's one of their staple foods there. It's delicious rice and beans. But I'm not one like there's no joy if you want to have joy, you want to enjoy some of the stuff, you want to have some things, go out for dinner and things like that. But I bet that almost everyone with any kind of normal income wastes probably several $1,000s a year on stupid little decisions, subscriptions for that they have not just Netflix, but have all the different streaming services. Well,
Yep.
probably you watching two of them and not five of them. So just get rid of the other two. Look through your credit card bills. Look through some of the things and just like eliminate some of the money. But what I like to do then is what I like to recommend is go open a separate bank account and ideally like find a tiny little bank on the other side of town that you don't just drive by all the time and simply open a bank account there and then simply have some money funneled over into that bank account every month so that it's out of your reach, because a lot of people when they see money in their bank account, it burns a hole in their pocket and they feel the need to just spend it. Well, get it out of your main bank account, get it somewhere else, have it accumulate there. That would be one thing, to just at least start saving something, because while it doesn't take a lot of money to make money, it takes education to make money. Eventually, money will come in handy to actually place some of these investments. And the next thing you want to do, the other thing, if I may add a second piece, is just simply start educating yourself. Like there's all these free information out there. I mean, we have hundreds of videos on YouTube that you can watch about how land flipping, generally speaking, works. You can learn about the real estate terminology. In the ChatGPT world, you can ask ChatGPT about what does this mean and what does that mean, financial concepts, things like that. And just spend 20 minutes a day just on the drive home. I just heard the other day that if you have a Tesla, Grok is implemented in the Tesla. If you hold it and say, I don't have a Tesla yet, but if probably buy one, say there sometime later in this year, I'm thinking about it. But you can turn on Grok and you can actually tell, hey, Grok, I want you now, every time I drive home, I want you to teach me some financial concepts. And literally you have a tutorial going on, an interactive tutorial with a Grok or ChatGPT, where you can start learning business knowledge, business 101, finance 101, things like that. So you can start making yourself familiar with overall the world of business, the business concept, real estate 101. When I started, I didn't even know what the word deed meant. I thought deed was something to do with church, because in church they tell you to do good deeds, not bad deeds. Right? And then I started, because again, from Germany, the real estate language, I knew how to speak English, but I didn't know the real estate lingo. I didn't know what a 2x4 is and drywall and all this different wording around it. So I had to learn that lingo. Well, today it's everywhere. I had to buy dictionaries, literally real estate dictionaries, and go through there. I found them the other day and have all my notes in there. Today you simply go pull up some videos and things and have all these free resources teach you all of this. And as you build more knowledge, you'll start seeing more opportunities.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Something else that I'm really impressed with, that I want you to highlight this part of your story, is even just the patience you have to get nice things for yourself. So it's not that you subscribe to the FIRE movement and you go super scarcity mindset and you don't, spend any money on anything and you stop your Starbucks and eat your ramen noodles. So it's not that. I really want to live an abundant life, and I want to be able to do a lot of things that inspire me and create memories and experiences with my family. I like spending money on experiences way more than stuff, material possessions. But early in my career, and even today, The home that we own has always been, it's been worth much less than what we could afford. We have always been, a decade or even 2 decades behind on what we probably could do from a total purchase price and to a total, mortgage price. And something that you were saying on your show that I'd love for you to repeat here is kind of your patience in when you transition from your starter home, you moved into a much nicer home, and then you eventually moved into a gorgeous home. But you could have done it way sooner than you did. You were patient, and you would rather put money to play for your lifestyle and creating your passive income than in something that took away from that, even though it might feel nice to have a bigger, fancier home.
Yeah, absolutely. So we bought our house in 2001. So it took me 3 years. I came to this country in 1997. It took me 4 years to build credit enough to buy a house. And we bought a simple starter home, $151,000, just 2 months before my wife and I got married. I'm a little old fashioned. I wanted to make sure I have a house for us. And my wife is an MBA and everything. She's the co-founder of this business, so she's a powerhouse. But still traditional in the sense that she's like from Latin America and thing. And I'm as the man of the house, and kind of like I felt like I wanted to have that. I wanted to provide that, and it was wonderful. And is wonderful. We're married almost 25 years now, and
Amazing.
so we bought the house and we stayed in that house, and in that house we started our business in our living room. We had like this formal living room kind of concept, and then the kitchen with the family room, and nobody used the formal living room. So we put 2 office desks in there, and that's how we started working. And then first on the weekends, then I quit my job, and then even our first 2 employees came to the house, and we put 2 extra office desks into our office, so we didn't have an office expense. And we started doing this, and our neighbors, this normal neighborhood, the neighbor owner was a high school teacher, the other neighbor a plumber. They're across the street. I don't know where they worked, and we just, the point is that within 18 months we were millionaires. Within 3 or 4 years, we had built an 8-figure business, but we kept living in that house for almost 10 years before we then moved into a 5,500 square foot home with a double staircase and semi-custom home. And then after a few years in that house, almost from 2010 to 18 to 19, 9 years in that house, we then ultimately moved into our dream home, which is a 7,100 square foot custom home on an acre with beautiful, gorgeous mountain views and et cetera, et cetera. And so that's kind of like, we even drove our old Chevy, not the Chevy, it was a Geo Prism and an old 4Runner for years, and that, and nobody knew. We're as multi-millionaires in a way. We used to go to the local pub and the local, like the sports bar, eat nachos and have a beer, and just because we never thought of ourselves as all of a sudden this hotshot people. We just figured out the way to make money. And it didn't really change us as people, I want to say. And I think to this day, it doesn't change us as people. Now we go stay in 5-star hotels, and I got a 911 convertible in the garage and things like that. But I could have afforded that 911 convertible turbo in year 2 of doing this, but I bought it 3 years ago. Because I bought it 3 years ago because at that point, it just didn't affect. It's a doodad. It's a car that, yes, it's not going to lose all its value. Eventually, it's going to come up, but still, it loses. It can easily lose $100,000 in value over a few years, and I just didn't. If I would have done it back then, I would have burned the growth money, the early money that we needed to grow. Now, it doesn't even affect our net worth, or doesn't make a dent into anything. Now it's finally a reward for that. And that's just how we like to live. Having said that, one of the non-negotiables we always had is that every year we go visit family in both countries. So every year we spend 3 to 4 weeks in Germany, because I'm the only one of my family here. My parents are in Germany. My brother's in for Germany. All my cousins and uncles and aunts are in Germany. Some high school friends are in Germany. So I'll go every year in summer. We go for 3 to 4 weeks to Germany, travel through Europe. And now my wife's mother lives with us for most of the year. But before that happened, we actually would also go to Honduras all the time and visit there and spend money on that. That was never, there's always like travel money was always money that is a must have.
Yep.
But I didn't feel the need to buy a fancy car. I mean, we bought eventually a nice BMW X5 and so on once the other cars kind of broke down, but I never needed like to upgrade and show like the neighbors what we have done and so on. Keeping up with the Joneses was just never thing because the Joneses don't pay your bills. The Joneses
Right.
don't pay your retirement. Your
That's
neighbors are
right.
not responsible for your financials. You're responsible for financials. And if you live just to show off to your neighbors, you're gonna just regret it later on because you waste so much money early.
Yeah. You said that so well. I love it. What a great. I kind of want to end right here because it was so good, but we have to get into at least one little bit on legacy. You know, you've got kids, I've got a daughter. We've talked about what that would look like
Yeah.
and making sure that they're financially educated and prepared, and could they ever come work in the business, or and my end, I've talked about how maybe it's a private foundation that my daughter eventually comes and
Mhm.
works in. I'd be thrilled if she came and worked in the family office and learned how to invest and helped us do that. But I'd love to just have you share some of your thoughts around this, because I think you're very wise in the way that you're setting up. I think we have to be careful when we have amassed a lot of wealth and we have done very well. We have to be careful how we teach that to our kids. And I think you're very wise in the way that you've gone about doing it.
Yeah, well, thank you. I hope so. I mean, my daughter's 17, or by the time this probably be broadcast at 18, she turns 18 next week. She's a senior in high school right now, and we always told her very clearly that she's living an exceptionally privileged life. We always, when we went to Honduras, always made sure that we go into the poorest areas, that we donate some money there to orphanages and things like that. That she's part of that she keeps her feet on the ground and see that the life she's living is not normal.
Right.
And I think that was one successful thing, that she is very grounded and she doesn't spend money easily. And then if something costs more than $20, she's like, text us, can I go spend this? And I think that's a success. But from a legacy point of view, it's like she's very artistic, but also loves business. So it's like she loves art. She loves art galleries. When she turned 16, I told her, "You're not getting a car. You can use one of our cars, but what do you want?" She's like, "Okay, I don't need a car. I want a piece of art." And it's like,
That's
"Okay, a
cool.
certain piece of art." So we bought her this piece of art, and she loves it, and she's gonna probably keep that piece of art for the rest of her life. But the thing is, I always told her, Sophia, you can do whatever you want in life. You can become a zookeeper if you want. You can do whatever really you want to do, but you do need to understand business. If you want to become an artist, the most successful artists in this world are also the most successful marketers. Like
Yeah.
like we talked about Andy Warhol, his fantastic art, his stuff sells for millions of dollars. While he is alive, it already sold that because he became a master networker and got his name out there. There's many artists that die in poverty because even though they're doing amazing art, because they understand nothing about business. So it's like you got to understand business because whatever you're going to do, it's going to have to be marketed. It's going to have to be run somehow and so on. And even if you just use it to manage what you eventually will inherit from us, then and don't just run it into the ground, then it has its purpose. And she's like, she fully understands that, and so she's excited about business. She understands business. She wants to work in a business capacity. Ideally, perhaps combine it with some art thing. So we're talking about her coming to the family business and us creating a branch of some kind of like a chain of art galleries or something like that. We have particularly one role model in mind of a company that does really well with beautiful art galleries, beautiful art in different things, very profitable, we believe. And so anyway, but also she wants to come along to the real estate meetings and so on. So I'm basically groomed her along, but without forcing her is the key.
Yeah. That's
Like
so
I'm not.
beautiful.
It's like if she wants to become if she wants to become an artist, great, become an artist. But at least you'll know how to market yourself when you become a successful artist. Because I truly believe in the art world, for example, the difference between somebody who is successful and not successful has nothing to do with talent. It is just simply how do you get yourself in front of the right people in the right galleries and the right things. And if you have talent, like equal talent, the one with marketing skills will massively succeed. The other one, the world will never hear from.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Jack. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. Where can our viewers and listeners learn more about you?
Sure. The easiest way, if you want to learn about our land flipping method, you can simply go to Land Profit Fun, like FUN, like having fun, landprofitfund.com. And under landprofitfund.com, you can download what we call a 30-day blueprint. So it's a very detailed document that actually shows you how you can set up your own land business in 30 days. We also you can go to landflipping. I think it's landflipping.com. And there's sometimes we do like certain kind of multi-day webinar series where we go live for an hour a day and things like that. And then, of course, I have my podcast under jackbosch.com, the Jack Bosch Show, and YouTube, jackbosch.com. There's a 7-part series you can watch there. Lots of different places to find it out. The thing is with Bosch, it's Bosch. There's a C between the S and the H. Often the American way to spell it would be without the C, but it's Bosch. So if you look at that on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, you'll find lots of opportunities to find stuff about us.
That's awesome. Well, thank you. I hope people tune in. We'll have all this in the show notes. And I really like to end every episode with a question. I kind of prompted this earlier with something we were talking about, but I just want, if you are watching and you are listening, so Jack, you don't have to answer. This is for everyone else. What is one step you can take today to move towards financial freedom and really living a life that you truly desire on your terms? So again, not a life by default, but a life by design. And my challenge is that you just find one thing. It could be more than one, but at least one thing from Jack today that you can implement that can move you towards financial freedom. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week.